So today we're fishing a lake that has special regulations. On the rulebook online, it says no bait allowed, barbless hooks required. So what does this mean, and what are the best presentations to use to have the best success at lakes like this? Find out in today's video. So obviously lures, assuming they're debarbed, lures like spinners, jerk baits, flies, spoons, stuff like that are obviously okay on a lake like this. But how do soft plastics work? Now, every rule book is different, so make sure to check your local regulations. However, for the state of Idaho, on page 47 of the Fishing Regulations booklet for 2023-2024 season, says, bait is considered organic substances other than rubber, wood, feather, fiber, or plastic attached to a hook to attract fish. Bait includes insects, insect larvae, worms, dead fish, fish parts, or any animal or vegetable matter, or scented materials. Specifically, scented synthetic materials, which means soft plastics. However, the key word there, of those three words, the key word is scented, right? You can have a soft plastic as long as it doesn't have any scent to it. Now, the problem is there's a lot of baits on the market that are scented, right? Because that does help catch more fish. However, there's some companies that are making unscented baits to use in situations just like this. Now, obviously, this is a very weird gray area, in terms of law, and it's one of those scenarios where if a fishing game warden checks you and is he going to go up and smell every single one of your soft plastic worms to make sure it doesn't have scent? Maybe, maybe not, right? But it's kind of up to you as an angler to know this and be conscientious and make sure you're following the rules. Now, I love Berkley products just as much as the next guys, specifically the power worms, mice tails, and different baits like that. Unfortunately, a lot of those, actually all of the Berkley products, are heavily scented. That's like their biggest marketing campaign, is that their scent holds fish 18 times longer or whatever their packaging says. Unfortunately, that means that you cannot use those on a bait or on a no bait lake. Because most soft plastics are scented, I think a lot of people consider just all soft plastics bait, right? But oil is not considered bait. So if a soft plastic just has oil on it, that is not considered a scent, right? That is just a more of a texture, it's not giving any extra scent to the lure. Now, luckily for you, there is multiple companies, there's actually a lot of companies now that are making unscented versions of their soft plastics to be able to use on lakes like this. A lot of them range in tons of different sizes. So if you're on a place, targeting big bass or something where you need a big tube, or you're on a little alpine lake like I am today, max fish is maybe 20-inch, you need small little tubes. There's a lot of variety in there, and we're going to talk about three of my favorite companies that make a soft plastic that works really well for this scenario. In my opinion, fishing unscented soft plastics on bait-restricted lakes like this are a cheat code. These fish are not seeing that presentation very often. They're typically only seeing spinners, spoons, flies, and maybe some rapalas, right? They are not seeing soft plastic, small finesse tubes and certain things like that here. So this is an absolute cheat code on a lake like this to catch a ton of fish. The first plastic we're going to talk about is the Frostbite Mini Slayer. This thing is super cool. It's got that nice little finesse paddle tail. It's about 1.5 inches long lure. I've got a Gamakatsu jig head, and I work with the company, and I've talked with our head guys there, and they've all told me that these baits are unscented. You can smell the plastic on them still. There's not really any scent to them, so these are okay to use. Another one of my favorites here is this company called Sierra Slammers. It even says on the back of their packaging, our jigs are unscented so they can be fished in areas with special regulations, right? That is exactly what this is for out here. This is the exact thing that you want, right? So these little tubes like this are awesome. You can cut them down a little bit so they're a little more finesse. Awesome presentation for this. The third company I'm going to talk about here is called Hookup Baits, and these are these little finesse tube style lures. They make a scented and an unscented specifically for lakes that have that no bait regulation. This is a larger one. They make a smaller one as well. This would be great for bass fishing, lake trout, pyramid lake cutthroats, a lot of different scenarios where you're targeting a little bit larger fish, but this is another unscented option. All three of these would be great options, especially for a lake like I'm on today. Obviously, these are going gonna work for trout, bass, crappie, any species. Obviously change up the different style of plastics based on what you're going for. I'm going for trout today, so we're gonna be using small little finesse lures like this. These are an absolute cheat code for certain lakes, especially a lake like today that is no bait. Oh my goodness, these rock. Let's get out on the water. I'm gonna show you guys how I fish these baits and how I have so much success with them on the water. Let's get it. Ooh. Ooh. Bunch of fish on me. Got him. Oh no, that was a nice one. No. No, that was a really nice fish. Come on, come back. Oh. Nope. Yeah. Oh. Oh, oh, oh. Come on. Oh, oh. Oh. Big one, big one, big one, big one. Oh, nice fish. Beautiful. Oh my goodness, the colors on this one are so cool. Oh my gosh, that was awesome. That little jig like that. That was so cool. That was the same fish too. Those dang barbless hooks. It's really nice for unhooking fish, but man, does it suck when you're fighting a big one. Cool. Oh man, that is so cool. And that, folks, was on that little Sierra Slammer I was telling you guys about. I don't know why, there's just something about a tiny little tube like that that can really catch a lot of fish. Another thing too is I was getting some short strikes, so I actually went in and I cut those little tube tentacles. I cut them down so it's a little closer to the hook, so the fish are able to kind of, on a small little nip, you've got a better shot of actually hooking them. You can also downsize your hook, and that helps, although I do like a bigger hook. I think it does keep fish pinned better. But obviously the barbless hook, you know, you got to do it right. That's how it's the way to go here. Also unscented. If this was scented, I'm sure more fish would be apt to hit it, but that's just what you got to do on this lake. You know, you're still throwing a presentation like this that very, very few fish are actually seeing, and especially if you're out of Southern California. This is a very Southern California thing to do, is throw these little mini plastics like this. A lot of the other parts of the country, you know, those fish haven't seen lures like this, so it's a great way to go catch a lot of fish. And this, guys, obviously, you know, this works for more than just alpine lake fish, but if you are targeting any type of trout, especially finicky trout, that is what it can get you right there. Beautiful, beautiful wild fish, stocked fish, anything. This rig will crush fish, whew, no matter what species. There he goes. Oh, buddy, you're a little lost. Come on. No, he's fine. There he goes. Cool. Sweet. All right, I'm gonna show you guys here the other rig that I really like to use. Those of you that have watched some of my previous videos here lately, you guys will have seen this rig that I'm about to show you. What this guy is right here, as I talked about earlier, this is the Frostbite Mini Slayer. This thing is awesome. It's about 1.5 to 2 inches in length. It's got that great little paddle tail, so it's awesome for like a vertical jig application. And then I got a super, I mean, just stupid sharp Gamakatsu jig head on there. If you want to go smaller hook, you can. This is definitely going to be targeting a little nicer class of fish because it's a little bit bigger. You know, cutthroats at this size, if you're fishing the right areas, you can catch them on baits this big. But these fish in this lake are very picky, so I like to go super small. Sometimes even smaller than this is better. But sometimes I kind of like a little bit bigger bait, especially that large jig head on a day like today where I've got to cast out there a decent ways. It's really nice to have a heavy jig head so you can just bomb that thing out as far as you want. The nice thing about that jig head on this one is you can bomb that thing out even farther. The one thing I do like though is I like a slow fall. So you've kind of got to pick a middle ground there on, you know, heavy enough to get it out there, but light enough to where you still get kind of a slow fall. You can do a little twitch, and then it has that real nice subtle fall, because a lot of times those trout, oh, just like that. A lot of times the trout will eat it, you know, on the fall like that. For those of you that are wanting to target other fish this way as well, that stays true for bass, bluegill, everything. I mean, you know, a lot of times that fall is what's going to get your fish, especially on small little presentations like this. So what I like to do, I mean, there's multiple different ways you can fish these baits, but my favorite way is to do that twitch and jig back, right? So obviously I'm going to let it sink a little bit here. You can keep it on top if you want, but the fish today seem to be a little bit farther down in the water column. So once you have it where you want, it's just that little twitch. You notice I'm reeling as I'm twitching the rod. And this is, like I said, this is what they do in Southern California for those stock trout. I don't know why it's a SoCal thing, but that's just what they do for those finicky stocked fish. And I've done it kind of everywhere. I mean, I'm not from Southern California, but I've watched a lot of videos on this, and I've kind of perfected it and made my own way of doing it. And I've utilized it on these alpine lakes. I've done it for bluegill, crappie, pretty much everything. And there's something about that little twitch. Hopefully you guys can see the bait. I'll do it real close here. I don't know if you guys can see it, but that bait has an awesome little twitch to it like that. I don't know why, but there's something about that little twitching setup like that. It just hammers fish. You know, there's a lot of ways you can do this rig. This is my favorite way, is like this. Oh man, that fish, wow, that fish really wants it. Oh my goodness. I don't know if you guys could see that. That fish came in, I watched him cruising right here, cast in, and right as it sunk, he mauled it. But yeah, this bait is an extremely versatile little lure. You can catch a lot of fish in a lot of different ways on this, which is just so cool.